Okay, welcome everybody. It is 4/18/2017. I have 7 o'clock my time, Pacific Daylight Time. And I don't know how long I have. I might have to go to the store, but if it's kind of an interesting, fun hangout, I will just turn mod control over to other people and then go and do my thing while they kind of take over. So somebody actually kind of had asked me to do this hangout. I was watching Antonio's hangout for a little while. I'd woken up quite late, and it was like the only thing on. And it was actually really awesome because Admin for Teacher had put Darwin's deity in his place. And he got kicked for it. And Admin and I go way back. I do not agree with Admin on just about anything, but we always have had civil conversation. He's always welcome to my room. He is a young creationist, but I get along with him just fine. And he actually stood up to Darwin's deity and got kicked for it against the wishes of Antonio, which was really awesome. So I'll give Admin props for that. But the topic of the discussion was, what would God do if Hitler had died as a baby? Which to me seems kind of like an odd question. And I kind of noted 3 things down that I wanted to discuss and see what you guys think about it, about why I think that question is kind of strange. One, I noted that, if you're a Calvinist, Hitler being saved or not really wouldn't depend on when he died or what he would have done in the future, right? Because being the elect, it makes no difference. Am I correct on that, Tony? Are you familiar with Calvinism?
No, I just started looking into that. I really couldn't tell you.
Where's a good Calvinist when you need him? Come on, Christian.
I know, right?
It
just seems like another speaker.
Yeah. And the second one was, God being all-knowing would know what Hitler would have done had he not died as a baby. And he would also know that Hitler would have died as a baby. So wouldn't it kind of make the question kind of moot? If Hitler, what Hitler would have done in a possible world that didn't come to fruition, why would that really matter? God knows that Hitler would have died as a baby, so I don't see the point of the question. And my third point was, what the hell is the point of anything if God knows everything and knows when you're going to die, knows what you would have done or wouldn't have done, knows if what possible world would have come true and which one's not. And if you're a baby and you don't even have the chance to accept Christ and you're condemned for that anyways, that's kind of being a dick. It's one of the issues I have with Calvinism to begin with, but the whole elect process. I mean, why would God make a bunch of people to predetermine where they're going to go? It's like, okay, I'm just going to create a whole bunch of people, and you know what? 1,400 or whatever the hell it is, 144,000 of you are going to go be saved, but the rest of you, I'm just making you so you can burn for eternity. That's kind of a dickish God, and that's kind of God I really don't
so
believe in personally.
It's kind of like Jehovah's Witness then, kind of like the same views as that, at least. So they say 140,000 people, right?
Yeah, I don't know if Calvinists say 144. Do they? I really don't know if that. I know they do have a limit on the elect, but I don't know how much it is. Again, without asking Christian anarchists, I don't know. He's my go-to Calvinist person.
That seems. I don't know. I've listened to Matt Schlick a couple times, but
Matt Schlick. Yeah, Matt Schlick.
Matt Schlick a couple times. I almost went on the show too, but I'm not. I need to bone up on my verbiage a little better before I get on there. Make me look dumb just through the way he words stuff. But
the doctor said God would do nothing because God is as God already intended. You know what? And that makes sense to me, Doctor. I agree. I don't think God would have done anything. I think the question is completely moot. That is my whole point. What God would have done, what if, makes no sense, because God, everything that's supposed to be is what God has already basically foreordained. It could be no other way, which is goes against the whole process of free will anyways, right? If you're hard predeterminist Calvinist, what they call it, double predetermination. And I couldn't listen to Tony's hangout much longer. That's why I started this one. I mean, they don't allow anybody in there that can actually ask decent questions, right? I mean, they don't allow Skylar in there. They don't allow Seth in there. Well, Seth, they go in there, but they just mock him. And then, I can't go in there because, one, I'm banned from his live feed, and 2, I'm banned from his hangouts, and 3, I want to go in there anyways because Darn Deity has mod controls. And the rule of thumb is that I don't go into any room where Darn's Deity has ever had mods, whether he's in there or not. So,
I feel just to let him do that. Yeah.
Oh my God, is that Alvin?
This is Alvin.
Oh my God, brother!
There you go.
I thought you died.
No, I'm back. I'm back in
Okay.
effects.
Welcome back. Alvin, meet Tony. You guys don't know each other, I don't think.
Hey, what's up,
What's
man?
going on? What's happening, Steve? What it do, man?
We're something has suggested I had a hangout to discuss this. It's kind of a, I don't want to say it's an idiotic topic, but kind of nonsensical topic of what if game of what would God do? And you know, I do kind of agree with Veckel and T on this particular point a little bit, that they are kind of making the argument that God doesn't judge babies because that would just be morally reprehensible, that God does wait for an age of accountability. And I think Admin was advocating the opposite position, that God knows what they would have done. Well, I may have not been Admin. Who was it? I don't remember if it was Admin or not, so I don't want to say for sure. But somebody was advocating that, you know, God is going to basically condemn or judge the baby based upon what they would have done if they would have grown up. But that makes no sense to me for what do you mean by what would have been. There could have been no other way, because God already knew what was predetermined, that Hitler was going to die as a baby. Right? So there was no action on God making a decision. It was there's no what if, right?
Yeah, I mean, I usually just go. I think that's Jeremiah 10.
Oh, your mic is horrible, Alvin.
Oh, hold on. I know what to do. Hold on, let me fix this.
Yeah, just reset.
I know what to do. Hold on. Is this
clear?
clear?
Calvinism context. Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's better.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, one thing that says I think that's Jeremiah 17:10, where it says God judge everybody. He searches the minds and hearts and judge people according to their deeds. So I guess you'll look in a baby's mind, you know, at the moment and see that it's a baby. You know, and I think that's about as much as the Bible gives as far as you know, like what if a baby dies?
Well, I mean, okay, you're a theist, right, Alvin?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not a Calvinist, though.
I don't even know, like, all these titles. I don't even know, man. I ain't gonna be honest with you. Like,
well, what do you think? I mean, do you think when a baby dies, it's been judged by God to be predetermined?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, well, in a sense, everything has been somewhat predetermined. If you believe he's the beginning and the end, the Alpha and Omega, he knows what's going to happen in the future. He's infinity into the past. So I guess everything in a sense is predetermined. But when a baby dies, I just go with Jeremiah 17:10, you know, where he searches the hearts and minds. So I guess intent is really what the factor is. It's like, but
I think the argument would be, though, Alvin, you know, if God already knows that a baby's going to die early, right? You know, when they're a baby and not grow up, God has to judge them according to that plan, and that plan is, okay, the baby's going to die. What he would have done at that point is completely irrelevant, is it not?
Yeah. Well, you know, there's actually I don't know if this is something in ancient culture that tends to our state of mind today, because there's this passage in Exodus where it's kind of like what you're talking about, where he's teaching Moses, like, hey, I'm gonna teach you how to turn this staff into a snake, and when you show Pharaoh this, it's not gonna work. He's not gonna let your people go. Matter of fact, I'm gonna make him not do it. So then you ask, well, why would you teach him anyway? You know, so I think there's something culturally that is missing from that generation to now, because if we read that now in Western state of mind, we'll be like, hey, well, why are you teaching him to turn the staff into a snake when you know it's not going to work when he shows Pharaoh? Matter of fact, you're going to cause it not to work. You know what I'm saying? So I'm actually doing some research on that. I think that's some cultural understanding that I don't think we're really grasping today.
I don't know that it's cultural. It just plain doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's
Well,
both. It doesn't make much sense, but it's actually, I would say, it is a kind of a cultural thing to some degree.
yeah, because a person today wouldn't write something like that. You know, and I think you can read. I think J.P. Moore. It was one of these guys. It was some theologian. He said something about a low context society and a high context society, meaning that in our society today, we're very wordy, meaning that we have to explain exactly what we mean. So we fill up our sentences with a whole bunch of words so the audience can be very clear about what's going on and said, as opposed to ancient times. They were like a more of a high context society where they wouldn't get real wordy with it. They would say like 4 or 5 words. And if you're within that culture and you understood that language, you automatically knew what they were talking about without them having to go into.
No, I agree. And General kind of would probably agree with that as well. I mean, I think he's a concordance. So he believes that the Bible's kind of written for all generations, and each generation kind of reads into it what they need to get out of it to some degree, right, General? Or you can just keep muted, or you can just ignore me. That's fine too. I'm used to that.
I'm here. No, that's pretty much it. I mean, the New Testament has exactly that.
Well, you sound like hell. You okay, dude?
No, I just woke up.
Oh, you sound like you're rough or something. Like you have a hangover. You just got dumped or something.
No.
He's like
No,
my girlfriend would have dumped me. Have you seen me? I'm beautiful.
He was labeled a heretic again.
He was labeled a heretic.
I'm a gigolo, as Steve says.
You're a gigolo. Yeah, you're a low rent gigolo.
Yeah.
Did you watch any of Antonio's Hangout? Because again, I could only watch them for so long. I did my best. But the best part, though, was literally when Admin was in there talking to Darwin's deity. That was awesome. I mean, it didn't get any better than that. Best Hangout ever when Admin stood up to Darwin's. And I'm talking to Zulu this entire time, which was funny. You know, because Zulu and I kind of patched things up a little bit. And, I'm trying to make an effort to reach out to him, because I'm a good man. And we were talking and we were agreeing 100%. And I told him, I said, dude, watch. I said, give it 5 minutes and Edmund's gone. He's just going to kick him no matter what Antonio says. Antonio will sit there and say, you know what, please don't tick him. I invited him. And Edmund's a good guy. Yes, he's a younger creationist, and I think he's so exceptionally wrong. It's funny, but he's a decent guy. And sure shit, 5 minutes later, he got kicked. And I was like, called it. There you go. I mean, it's so predictable. It was awesome. But he stood up to him. I got to give him props. He's like, Darwin's, pretty much you took over this hangout. This was supposed to be about, pro-choice and abortion. And we're talking about this. And you come in and all of a sudden you start pre-supping and start talking about, atheists, if they could be moral or not. But by the way, I will go on record. I think Didi is right on this. He was consistent with the Christian viewpoint. But that doesn't make him any less of a dick, right? But he was technically correct, in my opinion, that in his worldview, atheists would have morals, right? Because he believes that all men know morals. We just kind of suppress the truth in an unrighteousness that we have it imprinted on our heart. But I think it was Admin saying, "Well, atheists can't be moral," and of course, I think that's ridiculous. Not because I agree with Darwin's reasoning. I'm just saying Darwin is just consistent with his own belief system. Yeah. The doctor says even when Didi's right, he's still wrong. Yeah, exactly. He's right within his own framework, but I still think he's full of shit on that. Atheists are just being morals because morals are independent of a deity or not.
Saying an atheist can't have morals is kind of like saying an atheist can't have beauty. It's kind of like, I mean, anybody can claim something moral, and people will disagree with it or agree with it.
Well, I mean, that's a good question. That's a good point. I mean, is there objective beauty? Some people have claimed so, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I this is what I think you can do with beauty. I think you can come to a place where you be like, listen, 99.9% of people in the world thinks killing an innocent person is a bad idea. I'll say 99% of people in the world. It might be lower than that, unfortunately, but I'll just say 99%, right? That still doesn't make it a fact, but I can say the overwhelming majority agrees with this. I think that's the closest we can get to some kind of objectivity when it comes to morality. Break it down on percentages of majority. which still wouldn't make it a fact, but it'll be like something kind of objective.
Hang on, getting multiple messages here. The link to get in has been put out, by the way. I've given it to different instant messages. So if you want the link to get in, just message me. I haven't checked the live feed yet, so give me 1 second.
I'd just say something. In that scenario, I'd put rape in there, because it seems like rape would be worse than murder, because murder, you can justify murder sometimes, but rape, I don't see any justification for rape. So I don't know. I just thought I'd add that.
Right, like 99% of the world would say that's wrong. So
yeah, that's the closest thing to positive. Yeah, certainty.
Yeah,
I got you. Yeah, I can dig that.
Yeah,
why did the Concordus thing come up again? Like, how's that connected?
So what?
What?
No, Steve, you asked me that question on concordism. How's that connected to anything? Why was that?
Because we were saying that the Bible is, according to concordance approach, the Bible is written such that people 2,000 years ago and today will get something out of it to their time frame, relative to where they're at. Like you will say that, here's some things about science that's in there that, they wouldn't have understood 2,000 years ago, but now in the modern days we can read into it and go, oh, okay, we're getting something more out of it. It's very inspired to be written for multiple generations, to have multiple different amounts of information in there with respect to their time, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
yeah.
you got
I agree with
even but even not just in the Bible, but there's some stories that are myth and happen in the real world so many times throughout history. It becomes like a thing. Like, there's always going to be the story of a guy who's living amongst oppressed people who will rise up and liberate his people from the oppressor, like, and end up dying in the process. Like, there's myths about that, and in reality, like William Wallace, Joan of Arc, Martin Luther King. Like, you're going to see these kind of stories like forever, and everybody will always be related. They'll always be able to relate to them, because somebody's, for the most part, somebody's being oppressed. Usually there's some kind of liberator that starts a movement to stop the oppression, and oftentimes something bad happens to him or her.
Yeah. That's literature. I mean,
Yeah.
those kinds of stories are all over the place. Shakespeare.
And it happens. Yeah, it happens in literature and in reality. And sometimes fused together. And that's just like one example.
Excuse me for a second, guys.
And then you got the story of the guy falling in love with a woman from the enemy's camp. That kind of thing. These kind of things will always be familiar. So when you look in the Bible, you look at the stories in the Bible, it's like, it's a different culture, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, but they're still humans, and they're still doing like human things that, some things never change when it comes to humans.
Yeah, we're pretty predictable people. Yeah,
it's funny you mentioned predictability. That's exactly what I had when I was talking to Zulu, was that I knew exactly what Darwin's is going to do, right? When you know somebody so well, it's not predetermined, but I can almost see the Christian argument that God knows people so well that he knows they're going to do even more than what they're going to do. Because if I'm able to correctly predict such things like what Ronnie's going to do, which I've been successful at how many times now? I mean, literally say, hey, look, Ronnie's going to run to his safe space, open a room, and then invite somebody in who actually said come to their room, and then claim, oh, I already opened a room, why don't you come to my room first? And he does exactly that. You learn about the nuances of people, and you do be able to predict their behavior, right? Because humans are predictable creatures, especially when they're dishonest creatures. If they're dishonest, you always know that they're going to do. They're always going to pick the wrong path, right?
Path of least resistance. Usually.
Mhm.
Yeah, see, that's one thing kind of irritates. It's like you, but then I'm like, okay, I disagree, but I understand where you're coming from with your argument. Like it has sense to it. I get the honesty in it, but it's just when you're just arguing just to argue, like that's just, you know, it starts getting absurd.
And it's not even really just you can predict one person like Dee Dee. You can just predict that type of person. As soon as you can figure out, you know, how someone is, then you can go from there and you can predict what they're going to do. And it's
Well, everybody got their bread and
kind
butter.
of a
It's like the
little nuances, yeah.
They got the card. It's like if they're getting beat up on a debate or something, they can pull out that red herring that seems like it's applicable to what y'all talking about all the time, but it's not really. But it does get away from, you know, it's like an escape method.
This might sound heretical, but
Coming
I guess
from you, no surprise.
You're going to hell.
I know he gets picked on by his own people, and he comes over here and just gets flogged some more.
Yeah, but I honestly think God has to condescend himself, regardless and relative to his creation. So whether he's speaking to his divine counsel, he has to basically empty himself down to their level. So with respect to God's omniscience and how that works with the creation, I think that he operates in a multi-dimensional concept of time, which I think, remember, Steve, Hugh asked that very question, like,
Yeah, and Hughes Ross'
between
answer
A and
was,
period of time.
God. Yeah, I asked him if he was an
Yeah.
A theorist or B theorist, and he said he's a God theorist,
Yeah.
which I thought was a clever answer, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So because he's thinking, well, 10 dimensions, if you're talking about string theory, therefore God, you know, supersedes that.
Do you think he
and
gets into
therefore,
that? I mean, is that what he's looking at, though, General?
sorry?
Is he actually into multi-dimensional like things like you are?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
in his book, I'm surprised to see in his book, Beyond the Cosmos, that I recently bought, the 2010 edition, he has a very clever diagram. So if God operates in 2 dimensions of time, then you can just imagine it as a y-x coordinate on a Cartesian plane. So the x would be the universe's time flowing in one direction, and then the y would be the perpendicular interval that simultaneously works with the x. But so in one interval of time in the x, you have practically an infinite on the y-axis. Then he has another chart. How do you account for B theory? And in this case, what William and Craig tries to do in that is A theory. How do you account for that? So B theory is obviously valid. Like, you can't deny it.
B theory is the most common thing, especially with you accept quantum things. You've got to kind of go with B. And plus, A is divided into different things too. I'm definitely more of a Minkowski type approach rather than a Neo-Lorenzian. And I had tried to have that same discussion with DD one time, and I don't think DD was really. He was lost.
He says,
didn't you have to tell him what DD's position was? You had to actually tell DD what?
I had one talk with DD, and it was with Joe Sunseed on Time back on Nadia's channel. And he ended up basically arguing that B theory was false because A theory is true. But since God has perfect knowledge, his perspective, his privileged view, was a B theorist view.
Okay,
I kid you not. Didi was telling me that Newtonian concepts of time trumps Einstein's concepts of time.
Oh dear God,
they do not.
Oh dear God. What?
I kid you not.
How do people get so fundamentally, practically wrong?
It's because they're their own. Because they have no one that's going to put them in place.
People are asking me to strip again.
Around themselves.
You guys reading the live chat? They're asking me to strip again. They donate like $2 in my super chat. I think I'm going to take off my clothes like it's chatterbait, which is probably true if my camera worked, but my camera's not working. I'm going to try this weekend to fix this.
Somebody should open up a ChatterBait account just so that the great debate community can
I could stream to
argue in one
ChatterBait out of
person's
doing
voice.
this, right? Kill two birds at one stone, right?
Yeah.
Just
That's awesome.
describe
That's a
your.
good idea, Doctor. If I look like
Take it.
you,
Taking off clothes.
maybe. You know, if I look
So
like
you just
General,
describe-
maybe. But
You could turn people on and educate them.
who's going to pay to watch me stripped? I don't know. That's yeah.
Take it
I'm
from
sure
me.
that
If
people
Tired of
will.
making another,
There are
Super
freaks
chat.
out there.
if
Well,
they're
I
making another 300 movie, Steve
Well, I
is
mean-
definitely the front man.
Yeah, exactly. Well, shit. Sarah gave me $100 in super chat just for somebody to mute everybody. If I would have taken off my clothes, I could have made bank with her.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so imagine like a sphere. So this is another diagram Hugh has. Imagine a sphere, and imagine the equator to be the universe's timeline. But notice the analogy is showing that the universe timeline is non-Euclidean, and then God is saying on the North Pole, and again in a non-Euclidean context, he interacts with the timeline at any given moment.
Yeah, I visualize that. I get that, right? I do. I understand him. I mean, I think
That's-
more of
that's like a
Ryman
three-dimensional
sphere than anything else.
Yeah.
Was that going a little bit too far to make the analogy to a North Pole of a Ryman sphere?
Yeah. I'm just
So,
trying to
the
help
only
out.
reason I say that because the North Pole of a Ryman sphere is a complex infinity, right? So that's like where do you get more than the complex infinity? So, yeah, I can see your point of view. God looks down; he sees everything. To him, everything's already been in the future, already been done. Everything in the past is past. Well, to him, there's no difference between the past and the future. Would it be in that case? I mean, to him, it's anywhere he wants to look. It's completely irrelevant where he's looking. He's just taking that little slice, but there really is no differentiation between past and future to your type of deity, correct?
You see, this is why I said I might be sounding radical. So I think that using that three-dimensional perspective of time that I just mentioned, if quote unquote that God is on top and then he's interacting in that non-Euclidean context, I think God goes along with the events of the universe. So I think he does play dice, to use Einstein's quote, because Einstein said God doesn't play with dice. I think he does.
You think there's some randomness?
Yeah, I think he plays with randomness to it's sort of paradoxical, but to sort of prove that he is indeed omniscient and there's true randomness in the universe, that truly random things can happen even down to the quantum level. So
I do believe.
So-
I agree with you that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
give you that. I do believe that there is randomness on the quantum level. I believe that because of quantum fluctuations and Heisenberg's inserting principle. If you want,
because it's only probability in the maths. But,
if you want to say that's randomness, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't predict when a quantum fluctuation is going to be, right? That's random.
Yeah. And
it's totally
and
stochastic.
and going with John Eccles' work with the brain and how people with their consciousness, how they function, he made some remarkable applications to quantum theory, like quantum tunneling with respect to the cerebral cortex and all that. So if we are fundamentally quote unquote quantum beings, not to sound like a new ager here, I think God, so if Hitler as a baby, if Hitler died as a baby, I think God would have saved Hitler. The baby would be in heaven. I don't believe in original sin in the sense of the federal headship of Adam. I don't believe that because it's not scriptural. So if Hitler died as a baby, that baby would be saved. If Hitler died the way he died, very likely he's in hell.
Yeah, see, I could get that point of view. I get that point of view. My argument was more that if Hitler died as a baby, then any possible world, it doesn't matter, right? Because they didn't come to fruition. Because you can make the argument, well, in some possible world, Hitler was Mother Teresa, which, by the way, I'm not a big fan of her either. But but whoever you want to put in a category of, who was Gandhi, all right? So a possible world, how could if we're going to go by judgment of possible worlds, well, there's an infinite amount of possible realities, right? Possible worlds, whether they're they're real or not, whether you're a modal realist or modal analyst, doesn't matter. If the world is possible and logically consistent, and God judges you by that, that would make no sense to me, because there'd be so. How do you judge something with an infinite amount of possibilities? So you have to go, okay, we're going to look at a certain criteria, and that criteria, I think, I like the age of accountability kind of thing, although I think it's much higher than what they're placing at. I don't think a 6-year-old knows right from wrong. I'm sorry, but I don't even think a kid knows right from wrong. I mean, even at 13 or 14, come on, we all did stupid shit, right? Even though you do know right from wrong. If you make some horrible mistakes, should you be punished for eternity? Nah, that's just silly to me, right?
Yeah.
So I think that God would to him, all babies are innocent. So it's kind of like the whole abortion debate that he's having over on Antonio's channel. If a baby's aborted, according to them, they have to judge whether it's going to be saved or not, and all of a sudden, wait a minute. Well, hey, it could have grown up and been like Hitler, so this fetus is going to be aborted and then sent to hell for eternity. I'm like, is that really the type of God that somebody wants to believe in?
Yeah.
Because it's certainly not a God that I think makes sense.
Yeah. No, but that's my point. They haven't really thought about God's position in this, and so you see the way they are arguing, it's like as if God is not even coming down to our level. It's sort of saying that we're up to his level, so to speak, in whatever ontological level he's in, and that's it. It's just a given, But no, obviously time is flowing in one direction, and obviously time is also. Well, yeah. If you're talking about relativistic velocities as well, like time contracts and expands and all that. But God is in the midst of that. He's actually, so I believe, even before the incarnation of Jesus, he is, quote unquote, in a hypostatic union with the universe. So he has condescended himself right from the start. So basically, to put it in a nutshell, it's a form of flirting with open theism. But I'm not advocating open theism. But it is flirting with that concept. And I'm not saying he doesn't know the future. What I'm saying is he's condescended himself in order to interact with the creation. He's put himself down to that level, so to speak.
See, I'm not against the concept of open theism. I don't know why it's so heretical.
Well, then it is heretical in the sense that it makes Yahweh no better than ontologically no better than, say, Satan. So there's like a 50% chance that Satan could win, and that's
ontologically speaking, you're right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I can definitely see that, because if people are going to have free choice to choose God or Satan, or they're not literally, it's figuratively speaking, because they decide whether they wanted to be good person or bad person, or accept Christ or not accept Christ, whatever your line of demarcation is for what makes you saved or not. There's a 50-50 chance, right, in that particular regard. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, I have to step away real quick. Doctor, guess what?
Yes.
You get mods.
I have mods.
Well, not yet. You will.
Oh.
But remember the rule. You got to say it every 10 minutes.
I got to say it, and then I just have to mute General while I
across the board and say, General, I'm going to kick you. I'm going to eject you, General. I'm going to eject you.
We're going to talk about what I want to talk about now.
Yeah, just change the subject. If you want to get the link, send it. I want the link. People send it to Doctor, but I have to step away for a minute.
So yeah, that in a nutshell is. I'm still wrestling with it, but that's in a nutshell what I think is going on.
Regrettably, I missed most of that conversation. I had to step away and move something. But I'm guessing you were talking about what makes someone saved?
No, more God's interaction with the universe and how that fits in with omniscience and predestination and all that stuff.
So how does omniscience fit in with God having free will?
That's a good question.
Wait, God having free will with omniscience?
Yeah. Like, of course, I'm assuming you think that God freely chose to create the universe, not that God's actually just a glorified computing machine or something.
Yeah. So omniscience, well, before the universe starts, before anything starts, what is God omniscient about?
Well, he would be omniscient about everything about himself and everything that he's going to do.
Right. So
Okay, sorry, I'm back. I have to leave in about 30 minutes, but I don't know if I'll keep this open or not. We'll see. I have all these people watching, but nobody wants to come in. I'm finding more and more as time progresses, more people like to listen, but they don't like to participate, which means a lot more difficult work for me. Why are you making me work for this? I guess that's why I make the
What do
big
you
bucks
think we're
off
paying
YouTube,
you
right?
for?
Yeah, no shit, right? I get that, right? But at least you guys do acknowledge it's worked. I had posted on my Facebook. I'm like, making videos takes time, right? I mean, I've watched all these other people make videos, and I respect their videos because it's a lot of work, and some people take a week or two to make a video. Yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, I might as well say it now. I'm actually working, or we're not working, but I'm trying to make some kind of thing with the Creationist Cat's slavehold owner, Vadum, to try to promote his channel for Patreon, because this whole AdSense crap going on, and I really like his videos. And so I might have him come on, and we might do a little promo for his channel one of these days. So because I mean, he makes wonderful videos, and that takes time, that takes efforts to do that. And I know Creation Cat sucks at making videos because he's a cat. So I mean, if he doesn't have his human slave,
he can barely spell.
Yeah, and he slurs a lot. I mean, he's worse than Ronnie. I mean, does Creationist Cat call Matt Schlick?
He is. Like, he's going to be now.
Maybe yeah. Maybe that's where Ronnie gets it from, Matt Schlick. And again, I'm not trying. I don't think he actually has a speech impediment. I think he actually thought that's what his name was, Matt Schlick.
Maybe, or maybe he just, for whatever reason, pronounced it funny that one time.
No, he had actually said Matt Schlick about 7 times.
Well, yeah, no, I mean that one time for the video recording, because he only does everything in one take, right? There are times where if I were to record like a video for something, I'd go back and realize, oh shit, I mispronounced that word throughout the entirety of the video.
I take 4 or 5 takes, right? That's why even a 2-minute video takes 6 hours, right? I want to make sure that my audio levels are right. I want to make sure that I'm enunciating. I even had my last video, I ran it by Hannah, and she said, a couple words just didn't come out very clearly. And I have a speech impediment anyways, and I'm well aware of that. That's why I've said I've gone to speech therapy all my life when I was in school. Not all my life, but all my life when I was in school. And I wanted to redo it, so I redid the whole audio, and I think it came out a lot better because she had actually said, the audio quality probably could be a little bit better. The enunciation could be a little bit. So, anyways, Christian Anarchist is here, officially a Calvinist. Yay! But you know what? He was predetermined to come here, so why am I so excited?
Good question.
He's predetermined to birth.
Yeah. So you want to weigh in on this topic, Christian Anarchist? What would God do if Hitler died as a baby?
What would God do if Hitler died as a baby? I don't know. I don't live in that universe or time, so
That's why it's called a hypothetical. Is that
I don't really do much hypotheticals.
Oh.
Because anything can happen. Even you could say things, and then when that time comes, the exact opposite can sometimes happen.
See, I think it's important to talk about hypotheticals. I think hypotheticals gives us a way to explore things that we can't normally deal with because they just don't happen or happen very often. So I think hypotheticals are a good thought experiment. And Theology asked what happened to TST today.
To me,
I think I know, but I can't say. But it's not something bad. So
JD had to do a lot of sex time.
What would happen? About what would happen if Hitler what?
If Hitler died as a baby. So to me, it's a moot question because
that's what I would say. I don't think there would be much.
God already knows he's going to die as a baby, right? So what he would have done possibly makes no difference, right?
I'm confused now. So he knew that he was going to die as a baby. So then what God does next is.
No, God wouldn't make a decision. See, if you're having a what if would God do? Well, it's kind of a moot question because God wouldn't do anything. It's the only way it could have been. So God doesn't have to change anything differently. right? So the hypothetical is kind of moot to begin with. You see where I'm going with that?
Well, if it's been, if it's gonna happen, if he's gonna die, then there'd have to be, what in the divine realm or supernatural realm, because if we're focusing on the concept of a God, then, if it's part of a plan or something, then everything has an order, then wouldn't that have been part of it that, God knows about it for a certain reason?
That's kind of what my argument was in some way. God already knows what people are going to do, right? So, I mean, is it really a sensible question to even ask, what if this? What would God do if this?
Yeah.
By the way, I'm sending out a bunch of
So I'm
invites
kind of
to people,
confused about the
so.
game at this point. This is a drinking game. Count me out. I'm straight.
It's not a drinking game yet, but I am.
I'm straight edge.
Leaving in about a half
Well,
hour.
if it is, I'm winning.
I think I am going to pick up some beer tonight. I don't splurge very often. I mean, I know C. Brown loves to go, oh, look at Steve, only leaving Shaken 100. I have a beer maybe once every other month. I drink so little because of my stomach issues that alcohol just doesn't agree with me very often. And so you don't see me drink that often. I drank on Veterans Day, and I think I had one or two since then, but very, very rarely. But I think tonight.
Just quickly, Steve.
What's that?
Did you hear G-Man? Did you hear G-Man's video to drag and in that video?
I didn't hear G-Man's video to drag. I did watch Drag's rant, which, by the way, I thought was awesome.
Yeah, but
I love Drag's rant.
G-Man's response video to drag, and he mentions you quite a bit.
All right, so I'm confused as to what happened.
G-Man mentions me quite a bit. What is he fucking worried? Yeah. What is he like mentioning me for now? I mean, I don't understand these people.
You'll have to see it. Like I don't want to say it because it's horrible, but yeah.
Oh, really? So he's dogging on me?
Yeah.
How did I miss this video? I get subscribed. I'm subscribed to G-Man. Oh, I hate subscribe.
It's his latest one on this channel.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, Christian Arcus, I just changing the topic again. With respect to God's omniscience and all that stuff, I was appealing to open theism, but I was flirting with the concept of that in the context of God condescending himself to our level and yet remaining omniscient. I don't know if that even makes any sense, but that was my quick response. Aside from the technical details, that was my on that problem with Hitler and the baby and all that.
No, well, that's your take on it. I'm just still curious as to what the heck happened with this incident with DD and admin.
There was a difference of opinion.
There was a difference of opinion?
Yes. Which, of course, with DD escalates into, I'm going to mute and boot you.
Wait, what?
When there's a difference of opinion with DD, it eventually escalates to DD muting and booting everyone.
Okay. So what hangout was this in?
Antonio's.
This is Antonio's a little while ago. Again, admin has been on my channel many times. I don't agree with him on anything. He's just a little bit dense, but he's a nice guy. I mean, I don't have anything really negative to say against him personally, right? He's a decent guy, and we always get along.
Yeah.
And he was in there to talk to Antonio about the topic of the hangout, and of course Darwin came in and started running his game again, and he stood up to him and stood up to Darwin to say, look, at Darwin's, we're getting kind of sick of you coming in and changing the topic all the time. You're just running at your mouth. We don't care. We're talking about this. And Darwin's like, well, you keep over talking me, I'm going to boot you. And I was telling Zulu, watch, man, he's going to boot him. And Antonio's like, no, don't boot him. I invited him, and that's just wrong if you eject him. And sure as shit, he ejected him. Of course, he came back on his other account, and DD left. But the point being is, DD made Antonio his little bitch maid, because Antonio doesn't know how to put his foot down with Darwin's.
Yeah. The leaving comment. I saw the leaving part, and that was just very sad. Just like, yes, I'm not, guys. I'm gonna leave because I'm not gonna waste my time talking with a boy trapped in a man's body. All right.
Well, it's predetermined that you're gonna leave anyway, so We have nothing we can do about that.
Oh, but just quickly.
Here's what I'd say. It'd be predetermined for him to be leaving the hangout, but if things escalate, I will make sure that the predetermined event will happen a lot sooner than it should be.
There you go. There you go.
Christian Marcus, before you go, you wanting me to moderate the debate you're gonna have?
Yeah, but we have no idea when the day is gonna come because
Okay.
we had to reschedule it because apparently some Zulu had to do something. So we're gonna have to figure out when the heck we're gonna have that debate.
Wait, what are you and Zulu debating?
Our Seventh-day Adventists, Christians, basically, or Seventh-day Adventism, Christian.
Now you think Seventh-day Adventist is Christian, but you don't agree with them, right? Or do you think they're not Christian?
No, I think that the Seventh-day Adventism itself is a cult.
Okay, well, I kind of agree with you on that, but I mean, are they Christian?
Depends on which one, because there are some that are in there, but they'll deny essentials. Like
Depends
general
on your
notes, I'm
definition
talking
of
about
cult,
a
I guess,
guy
too.
named, like a guy named Desmond Ford who denied the 1844 sanctuary doctrine, but claims to still be an Adventist. But he was kicked out of his seminary. Was sort of disfellowshipped by the church just because he disagreed with one of the doctrines, which is considered the essential.
Well, technically, a cult means formal venerable worship, right? Any religion, technically, if you want to use generalities, is a cult. But
Right.
of course, that doesn't really give us much usage of that word, right? It doesn't really give us when you would want to use it.
There is the more robust actual criteria of what.
Yeah, and there's I mean, there's actually organizations out there, and I mean legit ones, not these fundamentalist ones, but there's legit organizations of what they consider to be a cult, and things like Jim Jones and those kind of things. They meet all these criteria: narcissistic leader, alienation from friends and family, exclusion.
Yeah.
If you
Its cults are primarily defined by how they recruit and how they retain their members, as opposed to like what they
absolutely.
believe. So you can actually have non-religious cults, and
Well,
those
but here's the thing: these guys don't work in that kind of realm. The thing that they do is a emphasis on certain things, and then once they show the pleasantry of something, then things start getting to a bit of a challenge, and to things start getting different once you're inside the whole thing, such as
they love bomb you and then they change everything up on you. They have different expectations.
Pretty much.
That's one of the defining features of a cult.
Yeah, because some people, and that's the thing that's also there, is that there's also been, I think it was during the 80s or the 90s, a book came out called Questions on Doctrine and Covenant, which is by the time people had the question, were Seventh-day Adventists Christians or a cult? And then some people in the Adventist church ended up compromising and made like this whole thing answering some questions and all that stuff. But some traditionalists disagreed with the book because it, tried to compromise certain traditional Adventist views just so that they could be fitted into the category of evangelical Protestant Christianity as we know it today. But I mean, if you look at some of the stuff that was written by Ellen White back then, it's pretty interesting, such as her view that Black people and Native Americans were the result of bestiality. So there's for someone who claimed to be a prophet, there's just a whole lot of strange things that this woman had.
Yeah, no, I think the whole Seventh-day Advent thing is just absurd. I think Ellen G. White was delusional. Well, again, I don't buy any into younger creations at all, so of course that's kind of going to be my stance. But I think on the SDA, I've known people that are SDA. I've known a girl that was SDA, and she just the cult-like mentality was just there, just completely.
Well, you know how the whole thing started, though. You know how the whole thing mainly started with her.
Yes.
The Great Disappointment.
The Great Disappointment.
Yes, The Great Disappointment. And
I
had to see, and I saw a movie that showed that whole thing in some kind of aspect, and just watching it, I'm like, oh my goodness, these people were that sad and desperate. I mean,
You
these
know,
people were just miserable.
I will
Oh,
say this
it
about
gets even more sad. There was actually one man who sold all of his belongings, his house, his property, and everything, donated all to charity. And then at the time that the rapture was supposed to happen, he flung himself off of the tallest building he could find.
Yeah,
Because
You
he
wanna know
believed
These
that
people
he would
take this
just be
shit very
raptured up.
seriously, man. When disappointment is a hell of a thing, man. I mean, they probably lose all hope. And then wasn't this a great disappointment? There was 2 times that there was predictions, and they
yeah.
both-
The first one
it
was in
3?
1843 by
I remember
Miller.
2, but you could, if you would say 3, I'll take your word for it. But I
Third
remember
is
2.
from the Jehovah Witnesses, though.
Oh, I meant 2 just with SDA.
You know,
Yeah,
I
there's
will
the
say
in
this.
1840
Can y'all hear me?
1843 was the first one by
Can y'all hear
Miller.
me?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Alan,
can
your
hear
mic's
you.
low.
Oh, okay. My mic low.
I'll boost you up a little bit. I got mod control. I have mod control. Hey,
Yeah.
I have mod control.
But
Now,
yeah,
I was saying.
Oh, much
Oh,
better.
go ahead.
but yeah, I was just saying that the two different times that Steve was mentioning was 1843, which was the first thing Miller mentioned, and then I forget who it was. I think it was Bates or something that came up with 1844, and he actually was the one that tried to make a date for it. Like he would say, on this month and on this day, a precise day. So
You know, I will say this about the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Even despite the failed predictions and stuff, their version of Christianity is actually somewhat close to first century Christianity, where they're like observing Passover, they're observing the Jewish holidays in the text. They worship on the Sabbath.
Well, they worship on the
Yeah,
the other Christians did. Some of them worshipped on the Sabbath, but they also worshipped on the Sunday and didn't really see a problem with doing that.
Yeah, I'm talking about more so because most of the Christians in first century were Jews, so
Yeah,
a lot of them.
And then you had the
I like
Gentiles
the way you
too.
say that, though. Most of the Christians were Jews.
Yeah, I know it sounds like an oxymoron.
I know what you're saying, though. Right.
Yeah.
Christ was a Jew.
They
Christ was a
they
Jew.
didn't really consider it any different from Judaism. It was just the new chapter of Judaism and the original idea.
But of course, then you had the Gentiles as well that are involved, and some of them would not observe the Jewish Shabbat.
Yeah.
And that's why Paul, in his writings, because he was evangelizing to the Gentiles, he would make mention in his works that, just because someone holds this day doesn't mean you have to necessarily. As long as you hold the day for the Lord, that's what's important.
And there also is a distinction that because according to tradition, I think you can even read in Papias, it's like Matthew was trying to witness to the Hebrews, and Paul was more so trying to witness to the Gentiles. So when you read the book of Matthew, some even made the argument that Matthew could have possibly originally been written in Aramaic. I mean, classically, most of the time they say the 4 Gospels are all written in Greek, but all of the Aramaic and Hebrew puns in Matthew suggest that it may have actually been written for it. So you have certain people trying to witness to certain groups.
Well,
definitely Mark was more for the Gentiles.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing with the Hebrew thing for Matthew is that the only thing that we have any evidence of is that it was written in Greek. To suggest that Matthew could have been written in Hebrew is just merely speculation.
No, Papias.
But to say that it could, that's the thing. Papias could have said something that could have been something out there, but there's no evidence for that. Even then, in concerning the background of the culture and the language, the Jews would be more familiar with the Septuagint, which was the Old Testament in Greek, and because they're living in Rome, they're Jews living there, and a good bit of them are not going to be familiar with
I'm not disagreeing with that at all. What I'm saying is, the evidence for there's this book actually by this Jewish guy called the Greek Jesus versus the Hebrew Yeshua, and he talks about Matthew singing to the Jews, and the indicators that Matthew could have possibly been originally written in Aramaic or Hebrew is that it has over 5 or 7 Hebrew puns text, and that's that's particularly odd for something
Hebrew,
that's
but Hebrew puns in what language?
no in Greek. So it's particularly
Yes.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's particularly odd for an original Greek text to have Hebrew puns within the Greek text. And
Well, the thing is, you
then
can though, and that's why we have the
you
Septuagint, which was a translation of the
And the
Hebrew into
Septuagint-
Greek, because
See, but
that
that's
way
what I'm
that's the way
saying.
the Jews could have their text in a language that they were at least able to read. I'll be
right. Did you just see what you said? What you just said? The
See what you did there? You see what Christian Anarchist did there? This is what I'm saying.
He's actually Christian. He's actually correct. Christian Anarchist.
Anyways, I gotta go. I gotta get to work.
All right,
See
thank you,
guys.
Christian Anarchist.
All right.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
Damn, how you gonna leave right when you get kicked off?
Because you ran him off, Alvin. See what happens when you
Damn.
get into this biblical stuff.
No, what happened was I muted him and I ejected him because I have mods.
Because Doctor has mods, and he was off topic, and he kept interrupting, and you just see what the Christian Anarchist does. He's just a horrible, horrible human being. No, I'm kidding. I love seeing it. But Doctor's in the group chat is bringing up a very interesting point. As a completely aside here, he's talking about counterfactuals. Your argument, it seems, Doc, that you said we can entertain counterfactuals partly because of our incomplete understanding and the state of affairs and all consequences of it. I agree. But in God's case, you couldn't say X is true if it's a counterfactual because there's nothing to actually make the proposition true. So you're saying if God has X being true, but it's a counterfactual, there's nothing substantive to actually make that actual proposition true in any case.
Well, if God, for example, said like, "Oh, the doctor could have bought German Shepherd instead of it,"
but
God already knew in advance. No, I was going to make the decision.
That counterfactual has nothing to substantiate it.
Yeah,
you could never have never done that. The proposition could never have been true.
Yeah, pretty well. Yeah, from his bird's eye view of all states of affairs, he knows exactly what is going to happen before it happens, and so he can maybe entertain and have these beliefs about alternative states, like, if he had chosen this, then something else would occur, but it wouldn't be true.
But doesn't God do that when he gives, if you turn away from iniquity or sin and you don't harden your heart, so whatever he gives as a conditional commandment to people, right? Saying, okay, this is what you do. If you do this, this happens. If you do this, that happens. Since the counterfactual could never actually be true, right? According to, we're looking at the hard deterministic approach from Calvinism. Since the counterfactual can never be true, there's nothing to make that proposition true. So isn't that kind of a problem?
It is a problem unless you unless you have like a very weird definition of what would make something true. Like Darwin's deity, for example, says what's true is what God says.
That's consistent with what Darwin's would believe, though. That's not
but it also makes it such weird. That God could say Darwin's deity is a woman, and that would be true, even though the facts are different. God could ultimately be wrong about what is true.
Yeah, well, I think they have to use that as see, that's kind of their safety net, right? Well, we can't explain it, but God says it's true. We're just going to accept it's true, regardless of the face of reality. I mean, look at young creationism. They think God says it's true, but reality is completely different, right? So, Edgar wants to join. I don't know. Really? I got to leave in 2 minutes.
I have to go purchase some beer.
That's what I got to go purchase.
I like how you said that. Purchase some beer.
Yeah. Okay. We have two options here, guys. We have a lot of
purchase is a euphemism for stallioning it. So
we have a lot of people watching right now. I could either keep the hangout open and try to get some people in here in the next few minutes, or I can just start another one after I get back and have a little bit of beer open hangout night. You guys are gonna have to tell me what you wish for, though.
Probably come back start.
I'm actually kind of curious about hearing Edgar's explanation of the Hitler baby scenario.
Okay. Do you want me to keep it open then, Doctor? Or you said you had to go.
I have to go. I don't know. Edgar, are you going to be around for a bit? Just type in the.
How about we do this? How about we
chat.
do this in maybe a half hour or so? Half hour to an hour at the latest. Edgar, give me around about a half hour. He's in the live chat. People that watch this video later on go, God, Steve talks to himself an awful lot. No, it's people in the live feed. Okay, Preview says come back after you get your beer. That's what I prefer. Yeah, I think so. I think this hangout I want to keep short because this was specifically on this particular topic of what what would God do? And I think the question is just nonsensical. My theological non-cognitivism kicks in here and says, this is just nonsensical to me to say, what if?
Yeah.
What would God do?
Regrettably, General had to drop. He said he'd be right back, but he could probably shine some light on this, because there are alternative views in Christian theology. I can't remember the names of them, and I can't adequately explain them at all. But there is a view where God can entertain possible scenarios, even though he knows exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah, I've heard something like that too, and we can definitely discuss that. There's a few other things we might want to discuss when I get back. Just to let you know, we do have a plasma physicist, an astrophysicist coming on. I think it's I think it's a week from today, sometime next week, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's the 25th, I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he'll be joining us, and he'll be discussing C. Brown's argument that Z-pins created all the elements, and then those elements be created into. I'm not lying. He's just like, fuck my life. I mean, this guy's awesome, right? I mean, he's a fucking plasma physicist. He taught at Harvard, and he's so down to earth, just a nice guy. And he's down for this. He's like, oh yeah. He's like, yeah. Let me explain why younger Christians.
I'm so happy that I archived that whole discussion.
I did too. I'm glad you did too, because it's epically stupid. So he'll be on, and then I'm starting a new series. I haven't really figured out the name yet. I'm gonna have to maybe take a vote. I don't know whether to call it Road to Rationalism or Road Recovering from Irrationality. I think they're both good titles. But they're basically going to be people that are younger creationists that are telling their stories, and people that are not of this community for the most part, people that you've not all seen before, people that I know externally to the Great Debate community that are willing to come in and tell their recovery from younger creationism or conspiratorial theories and flat earth, that kind of stuff, right? People that used to have really wild views and then, got out of it, and what they did to help formulate a more coherent and rational worldview, right? And I'm not saying that means atheism or secularism or anything like that, but just to get away from these weird, outlandish, obviously ridiculously wrong types of beliefs. So,
well, it's like, I'm pretty sure that's kind of where everyone in this community kind of came from. We've all had these incredibly irrational beliefs at one point or another, or we've been really, really convinced of something that ultimately we just kind of jettisoned, and we kind of wandered our way over here.
Yeah, and that's fine. The type of framework that like Sock Account uses. He's a oh my goodness. He's a coherentist, and with that coherentist position, you're allowed to eject things that you no longer accept anymore, no longer the beliefs, and they can go away. And so you keep on getting a bigger, better, more refined position. And I'm not leaning toward coherentism, although I am kind of looking into found herentism a little bit. It's relatively new. It's like been around since 1993. It's still right now. I'm more comfortable with foundationalism than I am coherentism. Although it's not like it's a bad position. It's just what I'm comfortable with.
Well, you know what the joke is about found herentism, eh?
Yeah,
that you should be very careful about it because it's made by a hack. The person who came up with found herentism's name is Susan.
Susan. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I know who came up with it. I didn't. What was the last name? Susan something or other, but it wasn't Hack, was it?
It's Hake or something.
Hake. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Because it's a double A, but people say Hack.
Yeah. That's right. Okay, I get you. Funny joke. Doctor making funny. All right.
Terrible
joke.
I'll be
back in about a half hour. Helena Handbasket says she's going to join us. Awesome. Oh my God, Helena hasn't been us in ages. She chastised the other day for going after Zulu because Zulu's a kid, although he's not. He's an adult. He's 18, which to me means nothing is any more than if you're 50. I'm going to treat you the same. But to Helena's, just to let you know, Zulu and I have kind of patched things up. We are on more than speaking terms. We've actually had some very decent conversations. I predicted what would happen to him, and I was spot on correct. And he acknowledges now that we kind of know what we're talking about a little bit more than the Clown Core Posse. So, Helen, I just want you to know I did reach out to Zulu, and things are all cool. So,
well, you kind of weren't around when like Max Hangs Out originally joined, eh?
No.
Yeah, Max kind of approached the whole community with this very combative attitude that, like all these atheists just want to argue and they all want to pick a fight with him for being a Catholic. And he was
like that, really?
Yeah, he was. glad
That's
to be
good-
shown
good for
wrong.
that.
And people are like, what the hell's wrong with you? We're having a nice discussion. We just want to understand your
What the hell's wrong with you?
And, you know, eventually he realized, no, the stereotypes that he approaches these conversations with, you know, the prejudice that people have where atheists just want to wipe out religion, you know, we all want to go out and kill the Christians, isn't true.
They're babies. All right, guys. I am going to go get some beer and a few other things. My friend's going to the store, so I told him I'd go with them because, you know, I don't drive right now because my license is expired.
And you're going to
anyway,
be
so I
getting
haven't
beer,
driven
so
in
you shouldn't be
ages.
driving if you're
So,
getting beer.
Yep. So, guys, thank you for joining us tonight, and I'll be back in about an hour. Okay. Thank you, guys. Or less.